This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, let's get started. What an awesome day. Yeah, let's begin. Okay, folks, I would like to thank everyone for making your time for joining this machine learning operations MLOps specialization program demo session. So this is going to be a 2-hour session. So where we're going to learn a lot of things about MLOps today. Okay, and we're also going to enjoy some real-time demos, and we're going to understand what is this course MLOps specialization program, what does this course really adds, what kind of a benefit for working professionals here. Okay, let's get started. It's going to be fun. Let's make it fun and more interactive. So I'm going to answer you all your questions. Okay, we're going to spend 2 hours. Okay, so make your calendar accordingly. You should not move here and there for the next 2 hours. It's going to be an exciting journey for you guys. Very good to learn something about MLOps and to learn something what is this program, MLOps specialization program is. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so before we getting started, I would like to obviously understand my audience. Okay, so you might be joining from various different parts of the world, right? So but I would like to understand so who we have in our platform today, so I can able to set a threshold accordingly. Okay, so you might be a working professional, you might be a data scientist, you might be a data engineer, you might be a DevOps person. Okay, go and use your chat window, mention who you are, and let me just try to understand who you are, and so I can able to deliver the content for you accordingly. Go ahead, use your chat window, mention who you are you a data scientist? Mention who you are. Okay, so we got a first message from Gaurav, says he's a data scientist. Anjali says data scientist. Mayank says project manager. That's awesome. Go ahead and mention who you are exactly. Just use your chat window so I can able to set a threshold accordingly. I can say Bala says data scientist. Awesome. So Parthiban says data scientist fresher. That's good. So here we have a DevOps person, Ravindra. Okay, we have data analyst. That's awesome. So data engineer, Manoj. That's awesome. So yeah. So and again we have our students. Okay, so again ML engineer. That's awesome. So just go ahead and mention it so I can able to deliver a content accordingly. Okay, so there are two important takeaways if you stay till end of the session. Okay, the first important takeaway, you can able to download a premium ebooks that we're going to provide for completely for free. It's a ebooks that is directly from, let's say, the cloud platforms, the biggest players, it from AWS and GCP. So you can able to download those ebooks completely for free only if you stay till end of this webinar, and you can also win a premium discounts in order to register for our specialization program. And yeah, more than that, if you stay till end of the session, as I mentioned, it's going to be 2 hours. Make your mind accordingly. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, thanks for mentioning your details. We have a lot of data scientists. We have people from statistics background. That's awesome. Okay, let's get started. Let's get started without wasting much of our time. Okay, so anyway, first let me quickly introduce myself, who will be your trainer for this program. Okay, I wish probably you should able to see me and maybe on some sort of a left side of your screen. So this is Sharad. I'm a founder and CEO of Cytron Technologies. I will be your trainer for this next 2 hours, where I'm going to talk about MLOps and the benefits of taking MLOps specialization program. What is this real deal about? Okay, it's going to be so fun. So personally, like, we are into two stuff. So we are into retail and corporate training, and we help corporates to build their MLOps pipelines, building ML models on top of a cloud. Personally, I have done more than, like, let's say 70 plus workshops and courses, 100 plus webinars, and trained professionals like you, 5,000 plus professionals like you, transforming their careers into, let's say, maybe data science or maybe machine learning. Just imagine whatever it is when it comes to Google, GCP, or maybe Azure open source. So we are the best people. Okay, saying that, so more about us later. So let's get started with the actual session. Okay, so I'm going to disable my camera, otherwise you will be having my screen towards left side, so you can able to enjoy the much screen space. Okay, saying that, let's get started. Okay, so what is the highlights? What are the highlights of this program? So here we are going to spend our valuable 2 hours talking about this three important stuff. What is really MLOps and what it takes to MLOps, what it takes to master MLOps, and what does the job industry looks like for someone who going to have MLOps as a skill set on top of your resume. Okay, so those are the things that we're going to talk about. Okay, saying that, let's get started. So like whatever the session that we conduct, so we always display this particular picture. We start from this beautiful picture, displaying this beautiful picture. Let's get started. Okay, Okay, here is the task. Here is a task for you. Okay, I want you to observe this particular picture for the next 10 seconds. That's it. Very simple. Go and observe this picture for the next 10 seconds. I'm going to ask some questions. As simple as that. Go and observe this picture. Here we go. Go ahead. Okay, here we go. Obviously, we know that there's nothing much to observe, right? It's not a rocket science here. So, okay, so my question is this. Okay, go ahead, answer. Use your chat window. Try to describe this particular picture. So, what do you find in this picture? What do you think this picture is about? Okay, so what do you find in this picture? Go and describe this. Okay, so what do you find in this picture? What kind of an objects? Okay, here we go. Kushal just answered. Okay, this is a picture of a park, right? And he'll say Ahmad saying like a okay, peoples with animals. Mayank is saying looks like a dog's park. Okay, so Manoj is saying a park where there is where we can able to take a break and we can spend some time with animals here, right? So dog leading humans, Gaurav says. Okay, isn't it awesome? You could able to describe this, yeah, right? But that is not actually my question. Is that's not the question that I would like to ask. Okay, my question is pretty much simple. How did you came to know this is a picture of a park? That's my question. Okay, that's my question. How do you know this is a picture of a park? And you describe, so this is a picture of a dog, and this is a picture where people, I mean, this is a picture of a dog park, right? So how do you know this is a picture of a park in the first hand? How do you know this is a picture of a dog? And how do you know this is a picture of a man? And how do you know this is a picture of a woman? And how do you know this is a grass? And how do you know this is a path where you can able to walk? And how do you know these are the trees outside, right? How do you know that? Question yourself, right? So obviously, so let's try to consider, I mean, so we are a biological machines, right? So we understand that, right? So like, how did you came to know such stuff in the first hand, right? So obviously we have Abhay mentioned that from previous learning. So Abhay is mentioning, so from previous learning, we know all this stuff. Okay, so here is the stuff. So who do you think, like, we are the best examples of machine learning, data science, or maybe artificial intelligence? So whatever world talks today, right? So we are the best example always, right? So let's proceed. Let's try to describe this entire scenario, talking about, let's say, if I'm going to display the same exact picture to a newborn baby. Just imagine this. I'm going to display this particular picture to the newborn baby. Maybe he or she might be less than 1 year old. So do you think that particular baby could able to recognize the same stuff what you are recognizing right now? So can a baby describe this is a picture of a dog? Can a baby recognizes this is a picture of a woman? Can he or she? Probably not, right? So a newborn baby, barely she might know, she could able to recognize his mother and father, but apart from that, a baby doesn't know anything else, right? So what happens when we keep on evolving, when we grow, like, I mean, we keep on consuming a various different data. I mean, so our parents are the best teachers, obviously, right? So we start learning from our parents in the first hand, right? We learn how to talk, how to walk, how to recognize different peoples. Then we go for a school, then we learn physics, mathematics, science. We keep on evolving, right? So we keep on evolving. So the more data that we could able to consume, and more the better decision that you could able to make. And today you guys have decided to spend your valuable time in this particular session, in MLOps specialization program session, deciding you're going to learn something awesome, right? So that's an example of machine learning what we're talking about. So obviously, so that's the same exact stuff what human beings are trying to replicate. The same way, the way we could able to learn data, and we could able to make some futuristic decisions, saying that whether okay, so whether data science career is going to be proper or not for me. So whether let's say, can I study which kind of education or not? Some of the way that we are taking a decision, right, for our future. So we want to try to replicate, we want to try to use this dumb machines to teach the same exact stuff. Okay, consider that. So let's say whatever the data that we have learned, whatever the decisions that we could able to make, we can able to ask these machines to make the same exact decisions. Okay, let me put up a simple example for everyone can able to understand. Let's say I have a CSV file. For example, let's say I have a CSV file. So what do you mean by the CSV file? Let's say this is a data, right? So let's consider that as a human beings, we consume a data in many different fashions. I mean, isn't it? So we consume a data through our visual eyes, we consume a data through our ears, through sense, and various different fashions, right? So we consume a data in various different fashions. Similarly, a machine can able to consume a data in various different fashions. For example, so let's say we talk about a CSV file. It's a simple document, right? So let's say my goal is pretty much simple here. So I want to teach this data to this machine. So once this machine learns everything from the data, a machine can able to make some predictions out of it. So what do you mean by that? Let's say, for example, let's say I collected a lot of data from my home. So what do you mean by that? What do you mean by you collected a lot of data from your home? Let's say I collected all the electricity consumption data from my home. I mean, let's say how much electricity does my washing machine, water geyser, it may be any electrical appliances that you have in your home. Let's say I collected all this data, I converted into a CSV file. That's it. Okay, so my goal is I want to teach this particular data to my machine. So once my machine can able to understand the patterns out of it, so then I can able to ask my machine to make a forecast saying what will be my electricity bill that it's going to generate for the next 6 months. So what will be my bill around first month, what will be my bill around second month, and what will be my bill around 6 months. Okay, so I'm asking my machine to make some forecast to predict what will be my electricity bills. Okay, that's an example of machine learning, isn't it? So here, once the machine learns the data, it makes something called machine learning model. So this model will be used to make a predictions out of it, right? That's an example of machine learning, right? So otherwise, let's say I have a bunch of pictures of a cats and dogs. Let's say I have a bunch of pictures of a cats and dogs. Let's say I teach this particular pictures to my machine. So once my machine can able to understand the difference between what is exactly dog and what is exactly cat, so then let's say I'm going to put up a camera. Let's say I'm going to put up a camera in front of my machine. So I'm going to put a cat in front of my machine. Let's consider this is a cat, and my machine is going to predict saying that there is a cat that I found in front of your camera, there is a dog that I could able to found in front of my camera. So why am I mentioning this, right? So because this is again what we call it as a computer vision, right? So anything that we can do on top of images and videos. Okay, and again, so when we talk about all these terms, artificial intelligence, maybe deep learning, or maybe AI, right? So we are currently in an age of AI, right? So AI is not something that's going to happen in the next 5 years or next 10 years. Currently, we are in age of AI. We already consuming an applications. So for example, starting from chat GPT, right? So we're already using chat GPT as part of AI. And again, we can mention your Google Home voice assistants. It may be Amazon Alexa voice assistants. Or for a worst case scenario, it may be a face recognition system that you have in your phone. What do you mean by that? So every smartphone right now has a face recognition system. I mean, you can bring your friend facing camera, it can recognize as your face, and it can able to unlock your face, right? Isn't it? So this is we are currently in the age of ML and AI, right? But what is this MLOps? Let's try to understand that. Okay, so now let's try to understand. So what is the typical workflow of creating a machine learning model? How does it looks like, right? So let's ask this question. So what it takes a Netflix to build a successful ML model? So what it takes an Uber to build a successful ML model? So do you think like building an ML model is all about, okay, taking a data and building a pretty much accurate ML model? Is that everything? So not exactly. There are pretty much more complex steps involved in that. So that's what we want to discuss today. Okay, so here is a simple example, but we will be discussing this in detail during in our program right now. Okay, so as I mentioned, the way we consume a data in many different fashions. We consume a data through our visual eyes, through ears, through sense, different stuff, right? Same example, a machine can able to consume a data in many different patterns. I mean, a machine can able to consume a data through pictures. It may be a CSV files, it may be a JSON documents, it may be a simple text files, right? A data can comes in many different fashions here. So what is the next step? So once we have a data, what do we do next step? So we do something called data preparation. So what is this data preparation anyway? So data preparation is nothing but something like a cooking that we do in a kitchen, right? So what we do in kitchen, like once we want to prepare some food, see, as part of cooking, let's say we grab all the vegetables, we make sure we clean that vegetables neat and clean, and we remove all the garbages. I mean, we remove all the unwanted stuff, right? So that's how we start cooking our food. Same thing, right? In a data preparation, a real-time data comes with a lot of garbages. It will have a lot of missing data, what we call it as outliers, all those stuffs, right? The first step, what we do, we make sure we remove all this garbages from this data. So that's what exactly, and we make sure we transform the data if it is necessary. We prepare and transform this data. So the next step, so we're going to use this kind of an IDEs. I mean, it may be Jupyter notebooks, it may be VS Code, or maybe whatever the friendly IDE that you want to use. So this is where we're going to write a script. I mean, this is where we're going to write a script. It may be in Python, it may be Java, blah, 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 whatever it is. And this is a script where we're going to mention, so what kind of a machine that I'm going to use, for what kind of a machine I'm going to teach this data. We pick a machine, all this stuff, right? So once we have everything designed, so then we pick a machine, so then we're going to teach a data to this machine. So whatever the data that is being prepared, we're going to teach this data to this machine. So this machine is going to understand all the different patterns from it, okay? So once a machine understands all the pattern, it's going to produce something called machine learning model. Okay, that's the end product of this model training. So what we're going to do, so once, if you're really satisfied with this ML model, so you'll be conducting something called evaluation. Otherwise, let's say we do model testing. Okay, so if you're really satisfied with that ML model, the results that is produced, what you're going to do next, you're going to register that model to something called model registry. Okay, we're going to talk about this in detail anyway. What is this model registry anyway? We're going to talk. Okay, so make sure you stay till end of the session to know that. Okay, so once, if you're really satisfied with that, so we're going to register that model to something called model registry. It's nothing but like a repository for ML model. So then let's say if you have a lot of ML models in your repository, you're going to pick a best ML model and you're going to deploy that to a production ready environment. So what do you mean by deploying your ML model? It's nothing but hosting an ML model. So what do you mean by hosting your ML model? Okay, let's try to understand how your web hosting works. For example, let's say if you go to www.siteruntech.com, I mean, it's our website. It may be www.com, so www.google.com. If you go to Google website, so what do you see? You see the content, right? You can able to search, right? So it's nothing but a web being hosted, right? And again, here we are talking about hosting the ML model. So once you host your ML model, and where you have your own developers, maybe they want to design a beautiful client-side application, and maybe a web app, maybe a beautiful Android app, so where your users can come and generate predictions from it. I mean, your users can generate predictions out of it, right? So this is a typical workflow of creating an ML model. So we understand what is exactly ML here, right? So we have a lot of data scientists here, we have a lot of data engineers here, we have ML engineers here. Everyone has a skill set of definitely understanding what is ML and machine learning is all about, right? So machine learning is nothing but a study of an algorithm where we teach a complex ML models to your computers, and once machine learns all these complex ML models, we ask this machine to make some predictions out of it. I mean, we ask our machine to predict feature, what's going to happen in the future, right? So we use various different languages. We use Python, maybe we might use R, maybe JavaScript, or maybe C++ to write a script, right, to train a model, right? So, but okay, now we understand all this stuff. What's the reality here? So let's get into the reality. What is MLOps then? What is MLOps? What it stands for? MLOps. MLOps stands for machine learning operations, obviously, right? But before we talking about MLOps, let's get into the serious stuff right now. Okay, so what is the current state of machine learning? I mean, what's happening in the world right now? So here we go. So this is a data that we took from AWS AI Conclave from 2023 Bangalore. So this data explains what's happening in every organizations today. Okay, let's do a time travel right now. Let's go to last decade. Okay, let's go to last 10 years. Let's try to understand what happened last 10 years. Okay, last decade, I mean, let's say last 10 years, for example, every organization at that particular time, maybe every startups at that particular time, they want to taste AI. I mean, they want to build something called ML model, because they have a lot of data sitting in their organization doing nothing. But what they did, they hired a lot of data engineers, they hired a lot of data scientists, so they started building an ML model. That's what exactly they did. So last decade, so every organization at that time focused building on ML model, but operationalizing that particular model, I mean productionizing that to let's say to production where they can able to make some money, is not a focus at that time. So they want to just build an ML model. Let's try to understand what's happening in the reality today. I mean, I'm talking about 2023. So right now, every organizations, I mean, who are working on top of ML, they have ML models. So from this people's, like only 53% of an organizations, they are moving from POC to production. Okay, from proof of concept to production. So it's average, but it takes 9 months for an organizations to do that. So what's happening for remaining percentage of organizations? Let's say for around 47 to 50% of organizations, they are failing because they might not have a solid ML pipelines to get into the production, to make it operationalize their AI. So it is expected by end of 2024, it's not next 10 years or next 5 years, we have just 2 years. Okay, so it's expected 75% of organizations will shift from piloting to operationalizing their AI. So operationalizing their AI is nothing but, so they might have burned a lot of money building an ML models, but now they want to approach their clients, they want to make some money out of it. Okay, so that's where MLOps comes into the picture. That's where a machine learning operations comes into the picture. Okay, what is MLOps? What is MLOps? Let's talk about now. What is MLOps? So MLOps is basically a practice for collaboration and communication between a different stakeholders who are responsible for building ML model. Then who is the stakeholders who are part of building ML model? It may be a data scientist, it may be operational team, but it doesn't mean that just a data scientist or operations team. But let's say we talk about in the perspective of an MNCs here. So there are different stakeholders who are responsible for building different aspects. There are team of data engineers, there are team of data scientists, there are team of ML engineers, there are team of operational team. Otherwise, in few organizations we call it as ML engineers and DevOps team, or maybe operational team, right? So basically it's a collaboration and communication between these peoples. So basically what happens by applying these practices, an organization can able to increase the quality and simplify the management process. I mean, it's all about automation here. So automating the way we can able to deploy your machine learning models, deep learning models in a large scale production environment. So this is all about MLOps. Okay, let's discuss further. Let's dive deep. Okay, so what is MLOps? What is the MLOps motivation and high level? So this is the high level view of MLOps. So MLOps is a discipline that sits intersection between the various domains of machine learning, as I mentioned. It may be machine learning, DevOps, and data engineer. The combination of that, we can say MLOps. For example, okay, so let's say this intersection of these practices coming together really, like, let's say it might drive value, how we build, deliver, and manage your ML models. I mean, so MLOps as a discipline, it's enabled with a core set of practices that can be spanned by, let's say, that maybe people, technology, and process having together, right? So now let's try to understand. What's the real challenges in implementing MLOps. Obviously, you are a data engineer, you are a data scientist, you are maybe ML engineer. So we know how to build a model. We know how to build a quality ML model. But what it takes to productionize that particular ML model, what it takes to go for production, right? So that's what exactly we're going to talk about. So let's try to discuss the challenges in operationalizing MLOps. Okay, so here comes MLOps challenges. Okay, so we understand in the process of, let's say, creating and managing machine learning workflows, we ran into a lot of different challenges actually. Okay, so we know that ML model building involves multiple steps. One thing, it may be data preparation step, model training step, so model deployment step, right? This is something that we already aware about, right? So not only we have these steps actually, and there are a lot goes into stitching this different workflows together actually. Okay, so for example, let's start from your data preparation step. Okay, so what do we do in our data preparation step? So in a data preparation step may contain one to many tasks. Let's say taking a raw data set and eventually converting that into training data set, validation data set, right? Or maybe test data set, right? Training, evaluation, or test data set, right? So we split that data, right? So then comes model training step. So in models training step, you might have some additional steps inside your model training. So whether you are doing single model training or maybe you are running multiple different experiments using hyperparameter optimization. So we'll be conducting a lot of experiments inside, right? So then comes model deployment step, right? So model deployment step in your organization perspective, let's say you might have only one step in a workflow, or it could have, let's say, many different tasks underneath it. Let's say, for example, let's say it could have, maybe you want to deploy your ML models into two different stages. Maybe you want to deploy your model to staging environment. So maybe you want to deploy your model to production ready environment, or you might have many different varieties of controls in it. So for example, manual approval of your ML model to go for a production. So what do you mean by this? Let's say, for example, whenever you want to deploy a models, right? Let's say I want to deploy it into two different environments. So I want to deploy it to a dev and I want to deploy it to the production. So, and I don't want to directly deploy my model to production or maybe dev. So maybe someone in a hierarchy, they want to manually come and approve that. Okay, so now I want to deploy my model to production, right? So there are many different complex things goes here. So there are a lot of different steps. There are a lot of different dependencies has to work together to ultimately build this and build out something that provides an iterative iteration across, let's say, the life cycle, and also to provide, let's say, end-to-end traceability, right? So whatever we build here, I mean, starting from data preparation to model training to model deployment, so we need to have an end-to-end traceability to track the model that we have trained in, let's say, model development environment, or whether the model to be deployed to a production environment, how they have to deploy, what version of your model is going to be deployed. So those things has to be designed, right? So in order to make it operational, this is where MLOps pipelines, what we call it as pipelines, comes into the picture. So we're going to talk about that one in detail. Okay, so now let's try to understand one more term here. So whenever we talk about something called MLOps, there is one relative term comes into the picture. We call it as DevOps, right? So there are DevOps people here. So there are few people might be also confused. Okay. So for example, is this DevOps and MLOps, are they exactly same? No, not exactly. Okay, so let's try to understand what is exactly DevOps here. What are the MLOps challenges similar to DevOps? Okay, so we know that. So like, I mean, so whenever we talk about DevOps, right? So challenges in operationalizing ML model has a lot common with DevOps practices, what DevOps people already do, right? So we will talk about DevOps in detail later. Okay, so when it comes to DevOps, let's say we talk about two aspects: CI/CD practices, or maybe a source and version control practices. So for example, let's say CI/CD practices is all about how you build and deploy your application, and source version control is all about, let's say as a software development application. Okay, for example, let's say you might want to design e-commerce website, or maybe let's say you want to design some other Android application for serving some other business. Okay, I'm not talking about machine learning at all, right? So a simple software development life cycle, so maintaining a software development life cycle, that's where the DevOps comes into picture. Okay, so but whenever we talk about the CI/CD practices, okay, so this particular CI/CD tools aren't necessarily built for machine learning separately. So what I'm talking about, there are no CI/CD tools in the market which is specifically built for ML. So in reality, what might happen, you will be using a different combinations of tools. For example, let's say integrations. For example, you might need some tools specifically for data preparation. You might need some tools specifically for model training, for model deployment. Okay, so all of this, like, could be complicated and challenging to stitch each and every step. I mean, your data preparation step has to talk to a model development step. So your model development step has to talk to model deployment step. Okay, so there is no golden pipeline what you can able to follow here. I mean, what do you mean by the golden pipeline that you cannot follow? So for example, let's say if I draft an architecture for you, okay, this is the tools that I'm going to use. Let's say if I draft some particular architecture, let's say if you feel this is a golden pipeline what every organizations can able to follow, no, it won't work like that. So the reason would be the requirement and technical implementation for every organizations are different. So your organization's structure is different for that way. So your organization want to use some other different tools. For example, let's say when we talk about CI/CD, maybe your organization want to use something called Jenkins. Maybe in my organization, maybe we want to use AWS code pipelines, or maybe someone want to use Azure DevOps, for example, right? So as I'm talking, the tools you might need to integrate, that completely varies for different organizations. So, but what is common then? What's common is going to be the steps and the core components that I'm going to recommend in this particular session, or maybe what we're going to learn in our specialization program. It's going to be common. Okay, so let's say when we talk about MLOps, there are more than one steps here. So it's not all about, let's say, source and version control and CI/CD practices. We talk about more. So even though when it comes to MLOps, source and version control is part of it. I mean, as a data engineers and as a data scientist, what you will be doing, we will be writing a lot of script, isn't it? We write a Python script for preparing a data. We write a Python script to train an ML model, right? So where do you going to store all those models? Obviously, you need to version it, isn't it? So we're going to use source and version controls tool to do that exactly. So then tracking and versioning your data. So don't you think like versioning a data is important? So there are a lot of data scientists here, data engineers here. Let's talk about this. Okay, let's talk about a simple story here. Okay, let's go to 2019. Okay, let's try to imagine that. So you guys have built a ML model, right, for a theater owners. Let's say in order to predict what will be their sales forecast. Okay, you are building an ML model for a theater owners to predict what will be a ticket sales forecast, how much revenue they're going to make. Okay, let's imagine that you built this ML model and you believe that okay, you don't have a knowledge on at that particular time, so MLOps or maybe monitoring an ML model, all those stuff. Let's say you simply deployed your model, and so okay, it did work for next 6 months. Okay, no bad, it did work for the next 6 months perfectly fine. But after 6 months, what happens? Your model become completely useless. The reason is this, you know what happened? The COVID comes into the picture, right? So because you built an ML model for data owners, but COVID comes to the picture, so no one went to theaters at that particular time. We don't, I mean, no one watched movies by going to the theaters, right? So your model completely become useless, right? And you didn't had a ability to, I mean, to monitor your ML model. For that reason, it might have failed. And there's another changes that you might have seen. So during a time of lockdown, you might see that OTTs completely took over the market, right? So we started now, even though now after COVID, we are spending more time in OTTs. It may be Amazon Prime, it may be Netflix, it may be Hotstar, for example. So what I'm trying to point out here, your customer behavior got completely changed, isn't it? Right? So before COVID and after COVID, there is a two different categories. I mean, there are two different customer behaviors. So your customers are basically your data, right? So how then you need to use data version control tools basically to version your data, right? So there are different varieties of data version control tools that you can able to use, right? So before COVID, you might have different ML model, and after COVID, you might have a different ML model because your data has just changed. So that means you need to also aware about model artifacts versioning, because if your data changes, your model changes. That means you need to also use model registry is what we used to call, which is nothing but a platform where you're going to version your models, especially, right? It may be model artifacts or maybe model versions. Okay, so this is the challenges what we are talking about, stitching everything together. So your organization might want to use different source version control tools. So maybe your organization want to use different data version control tools. So your organization want to use model versioning on top of AWS, Azure, or GCP, or maybe open source tools. So every organization structures are different. Okay, so now we understand that. So there are a lot of complexities and there are different tools requirement in the market based on every organization. So not every organization going to use AWS or Azure or GCP or maybe open source tools. Every organization has a different requirements. Okay, then how are we going to master this MLOps? Okay, so that's what exactly we're going to focus in this particular session, right? So let's talk about what it takes to master MLOps. Before that, we will try to understand the various different components in MLOps, obviously. Then we will get started. So this will help you to understand, so as a professional, how you need to pick a right tool for your organization. So now, so the way it starts, we start from use case discovery, isn't it? So every organization will start their journey in use case discovery. So then once they have a use case, they have a sufficient data to get started, then comes data engineering step. So this is where we prepare and transform a data. So once we have an access to data, this is where we start building ML pipelines. So based on your organization, based on what kind of a source version control tools you need, data model versioning, feature store, blah blah blah, other stuff, you come up a design saying that, okay, so what kind of a tool and what kind of a cloud platform that you're going to use. Okay, this is where we build our MLOps pipelines. Then comes production deployment. So once everything is ready, we deploy to a production, I mean the models. Then comes production monitoring, very important step. So let's split this and we will discuss this in a detail. Okay, so we will be first getting started with, let's say, business understanding, right? So it starts from a business at the end of the day. So a business, let's say a business has a lot of data, right? So where we will be trying to understand and figure out if there is any possible use cases that we could able to solve. I mean, the possible problems that we could able to solve. So I mean, use case identification. So once there is a right use case that organization can able to solve and convert that into viable business, so then comes data understanding. So now they have a possible use case. Now they need to figure out, do they have a proper data? Are they can able to build a proper data engineering pipelines to build to get a data to their use case? So then once the feasibility study is over, so then comes data preparation. Okay, in a data preparation step, this is where we bring in our data engineers. Okay, they start preparing our data, transforming a data if necessary. So then comes learning about an algorithm. So in this step particularly, we pick up the right algorithm that it could able to solve a problem that we are looking forward. So then comes model building and training. So once an algorithm is ready, so we pick a data from data engineer and we start building an ML model. So then comes model experimentation. So until you figure out the right quality of a model, we do multiple experiments. I mean, we do hyperparameter tuning a couple of times to come up with the best quality of a model. So once you have a best quality of a model, so then you will be evaluating that ML model with a test data sets. So once you have a best quality of a model which is ready for a deployment, then comes the model serving step. So where we'll be thinking about deploying this ML model. So as part of a deployment, we want to do an automation. I mean, so every time when you want to train an ML model, we don't want to manually run the code to do that. So this is where incorporation of CI/CD pipelines comes into the picture, right? This is where we want to integrate a CI/CD pipeline. The next time when we want to train an ML model, it will be automatically to be data preparation has to be done automatically, model training has to be happen automatically, model deployment has to be happen automatically. That's what exactly the automation what we're talking about. So then we do this operation, then comes, let's say, monitoring your end-to-end MLOps pipelines. Not just monitoring your ML model, you need to monitor your complete MLOps pipeline and operationalize it again and again to bring this continuous cycle. Okay, so now, how do we come up with this particular the pipeline building process? A few things to understand. So first, as I mentioned, it will start from a use case discovery. So who will be a stakeholders here? For example, we'll be having our business peoples. I mean, it may be the business people's business head, it may be along with a data scientist. So they will be sitting together to figure out to convert a business problem to a viable problem statement. Okay, so the next step, they will be setting up some objectives. I mean, so they will be setting up some key performance indicators they have to measure once they are trying to build an ML model. So then comes a data engineering step. So this is where the collaboration between our data engineers and our data scientists will happen. So they will be figuring out a way they can able to acquire a data, right? You will be building a data engineering pipelines to bring in a data from various different sources. So then comes, you'll be doing a data preparation, data transformation if it is necessary. So then comes machine learning pipeline building process. Okay, so let's say once in this particular step, this is a stage where we'll be designing and deploying a pipeline with completely incorporated CI/CD tools. And here, our data scientists will be using these pipelines to conduct various different experiments. It may be model training experiment, hyperparameter tuning experiments, right? And testing, blah, 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 other stuff, right? And the kind of a pipeline that you're going to build, it should have a capability to keep track your data and model lineage with the associated KPIs that you have specified initially before you're getting started. So once you have a best ML model, then comes production deployment. So this is a stage where you're going to think about having a secure and seamless deployment into a production servers. Maybe you want to deploy to the cloud platform. Maybe you want to deploy to the on-premises, maybe a hybrid system that you want to build. So then comes production monitoring. So this is where you're going to monitor your ML model continuously, which is running in a production, and not just monitoring your ML model, continuously monitoring the infrastructure that you have built. I mean, the complete pipelines that you've built, the CI/CD pipelines, data versioning control tools, feature stores, model registries, all those stuff has to be monitored. Okay, and so we'll be keep on monitoring this continuously, and we'll be keep on monitoring this associated KPIs along with considering if there is any changes in your input data distribution or changes in your ML model. Okay, saying that, let's try to put it everything in a one single block diagram, so where it's going to provide you more clarity. Okay, let's get started. Okay, here we go. Okay, the ultimate ideology for every organization today, they are trying to move from building automated ML workflows to completely incorporated CI/CD practices. Okay, let's discuss this in detail now. Okay, let's get started. So moving from building automated ML workflows, let's consider without MLOps first of all. So without MLOps, what we do, right? So all we do, we have a data, we take a data, we prepare a data, I mean, we pre-process the data. Once your data is ready, we train an ML model and we go and deploy it. So this is the same exact thing that you might have done in the example that I provided. So before, let's say before COVID, you trained an ML model to predict the sales for a theater owners, right? That's what exactly we might do. But how does an incorporated CI/CD pipeline would add a value for an organization? Let's discuss that. Okay. So where do we start? So we start from obviously ML project identification, right? So obviously we know, okay, a business identifies the project. So once business could able to identify the project, what is next. So then comes data discovery. So they figured out a data, they have an access to data. Then comes what? Okay, so they have an access to data, but they should not, okay, let me get started preparing and training ML model. No, it won't work like that. So you need to figure out the best data version control tools for your organization. So do I need to use something called DVC or Git large files? Okay, there are many different tools. So what we're going to do, we're going to version our data first of all. Okay, we're going to use this data version control tools to have version 1, version 2, version n, right, data sets. So once you have a data, then comes data pre-processing step. So this is where we might have our data engineers writing a lot of script to prepare a data, right? And here you're writing a code, isn't it? Then where are you going to put this code? Where are you going to store this code in the first hand? So that's where a code repositories comes into the picture. I mean, the source code version control tools. It may be GitHub, for example, right? So let's say we go to use tools like this to version your code, right? Your code might change, right? Obviously in the future. For example, let's say maybe I have a classification threshold that I mentioned in my code. Maybe for the next version of a model that I want to create, I might want to change that threshold, right? Then again, you will be producing a new version of ML model. Okay, that's it. So then comes model building step. As part of a model building, this is where our dear data scientist comes in picture. He will be writing a lot of scripts, obviously to picking up ML model, to get the data. So you'll be writing a lot of Python script, for example. So again, this code has to be also versioned by using a code repositories. Okay, so then comes model training. So if you want to train your ML model, what do you need? You need something called features, isn't it? Right? Let's talk about the use case that we are talking here. Let's say I want to train an ML model to predict what will be my electricity bill forecast. Let's say what are the features that I might use? I might use voltage, current, previous bill amounts, blah blah blah, other features, right? So these are the features. So how are you going to get these features in a first hand? So let's say this is where we're going to use something called feature stores, where we're going to grab a features. A feature store is nothing but, let's say, schema repository where we're going to fetch the features from. So there are different feature stores that organization can able to use for their requirements. So let's say, okay, now we have trained a model, that's good. So now output of your model is going to produce something called model artifacts, and again a model along with that. Okay, so now where are you going to store this ML model? Okay, so step number 1, you might have produced first version of ML model. Step number 2, you might have produced another ML version, another ML model. Okay, so how are you going to version this? Am I going to use this model to be stored on top of a GitHub? No, not exactly. GitHub is not made for that. Are you going to use your data to be stored on a GitHub for versioning? No, GitHub is not made for versioning your data. Similarly, GitHub is not made for versioning your model. So there are model registries. There are different model registries that are available in the market. Maybe, for example, SageMaker model registry, Vertex AI model registry, Azure model registry, MLflow, for example. So we'll be using these model registries to basically to version this ML model. Okay, then comes what? So now comes a deployment step. So this is where we're going to pick up the best ML model from our model registry, and we're going to deploy that to production ready environment. Then comes integration part and an operation part. So let's say this is where we integrate everything with the CI/CD pipelines. Okay, so now what happens? So as part of an operation step, we're going to integrate a lot of automations here, along with automated model building, I mean data preparation, model building, and model deployment. Let's say we integrate something called automated quality gates. So what is this automated quality gates? So as the name represents, they are the quality gates. It's going to decide whether this model is fit to deploy or not. Let's say, for example, I am training a model on top of regression, for example. Let's say I'm preparing a model on top of regression. Let's say I'm going to use some kind of a threshold. Let's say, for example, if my MSE score is, let's say, less than or equal to 7, or maybe less than or equal to 7, I want to register my model to model registry. If it is less than or equal to 7, it's going to register my model to model registry. Otherwise, if it is greater than 7, it's not going to register my model to model registry. So you can able to use your quality gates to evaluate your ML models. Similarly, you can able to use automated quality gates in order to evaluate your data itself. You can able to use data checkpoints here to decide whether your data preparation is done. Is that completely free from, let's say, outliers or maybe missing data? You can able to use this quality gates. And again, you need to have the tool that you're going to build should support the end-to-end traceability. I mean, not just monitoring your model that has been deployed, you need to monitor what's happening in your data preparation what's happening in your model building training, and what's happening in your model deployment, and what's happening after model deployment. So you need to have a tool that it supports an end-to-end traceability. Got it? Awesome, right? This is what it takes to build a successful ML model. Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm a data engineer. I'm a data scientist. I am a DevOps person. Okay, you might be a developer. What I'm going to do here, what's my responsibility, what are the tools that I might use, for example. So now let's talk about the different roles involved in MLOps. Okay, so how does an organization first of all pick this kind of a peoples, this kind of a skill sets for their organization? Okay, so when it comes to developing a successful ML machine learning project, for example, so it involves varieties of experience and requires, let's say, extreme collaboration among the teams. That's what exactly MLOps is, right? So basically an organization should answer this following questions, for example, before they picking up the peoples for their organization. Okay, so first of all, it may be, do they have first of all ML use case, or okay, so do they have enough data to get started, and do they have enough infrastructure, or maybe the manpower, or maybe the budgets to get started, right? So for something like that. So let's say usually when we talk about MNCs, right, multinational companies, so they will be having this various different roles what we are talking here. Okay, the first thing, let's say we start from business peoples. Okay, so business peoples, I mean, it may be the business head, right, along with let's say a data scientist. They will be sitting together and to figure out a data use cases, right? So next thing, in few organizations you might not expect all these different roles. Not let's say for example, when we talk about startups, a startup company might not have someone called data engineers, data scientist, someone. So you might also see there is a roles called a full stack data scientist or full stack ML engineer. So when the word comes full stack, basically you will be the one who will be doing the multiple things over here. I mean, you'll be the one who will be responsible for preparing a data, training ML model, deploying it, building pipelines, all this stuff actually, right? So that will be a scenario. So, but when it comes to MNCs, definitely they're going to have various different people. So for example, they might have a data analyst. So what does a data analyst does? A data analyst will be closely working with obviously our product manager and a business team. So basically the goal for a data analyst is to generate an insight from a user data. So you will be using tools like SQL, Excel sheets, different visualization tools like Tableau or Power BI to figure out what are the right features that our team can able to use in order to get started with a data science workload, right? That's what exactly they do. Then comes our data engineer. So our data engineer, as a name represents, he will be building an infrastructure to collect, transform, and prepare a data. So you will be using tools like it may be Spark, Hadoop systems, ETL tools, right, to basically to prepare and transform the data. Then comes our data scientist. So he will be building an ML model which will become a part of a final end product. So then you might also expect there is a different kind of a role which is called research or maybe applied scientist. So you might not see those roles in other companies, but let's say we talk about Google or Microsoft, you might see this research scientist or applied scientist. So majorly they will be working in a bleeding edge technologies. Generally, let's say these peoples will be designing a new algorithm for various different products, what that organization is working on. So then comes ML engineers. So machine learning engineers, basically their work will be overlapped with data engineers. So they focus largely on, let's say, ML models and relevant related infrastructure. So they work closely with also data scientists, and they will be also deploying ML models made by them. So as part of MLOps, let's say we don't call it as DevOps team, we call it as ML engineers. Okay, so ML engineers and DevOps team, they are exactly same when it comes to this perspective. So then comes developers. Okay, so this is going to be a last piece of a puzzle. So what they do, right? So they integrate everything that other people's has built, what data engineers, data scientists, research team, ML engineers they have done. So they integrate everything in a main application, right? So our developers will be creating a customer facing applications, I mean client applications, which our clients are going to interact with the model that we have deployed, for example. Okay, so this will be the statement. And again, as part of MLOps, so here let's say every people should have their own skill set on top of MLOps. For example, as it's a game of collaboration, so everyone has to aware about what's this pipeline is, what's really happening. So data engineers should have a strong hold on versioning data, understanding feature stores, right? So preparing the data, all this stuff. Our data scientists should have knowledge on, let's say, using pipelines, especially feature stores. It may be model registries, registering the model to model registries, using this quality gates. So our ML engineers, CI/CD pipelines, working with data scientists, again, a feature stores, all this stuff. So, and again, there are different kind of roles that are available in organization. We can say MLOps specialist, MLOps lead engineer, MLOps architect. Okay, as I'm mentioning, this 3 lead roles comes to the picture. So let's say when you have a more experience, maybe, so these are the people who will be someone who is architecting a pipeline, deciding what tool to be used, right? What kind of a feature store that we're going to use, what kind of a model registry I'm going to use, right? Someone who is going to decide and manage the peoples here, someone who is going to manage data scientists or data engineers or research people. So you can able to decide. So based on the more experience that you have in industry, you can also apply for that role. So, okay, saying that, let's try to compare what is really DevOps and what is really MLOps here in a simple differentiation. Okay, so when it comes to DevOps, right, it's all about building generic applications, right? It's all about building a simple software applications. Okay, so here we will be using a standard set of libraries, right, to solve a specific use case, right? So here all we care about version control tools. I mean, it may be source version control tools, right, or maybe basically to artifact, I mean, to version your code and artifacts that you're going to generate. So here the artifacts would be executable jar files, for example. And how do you validate that? We will be conducting unit test. And who will be stakeholders who are part of it? Software engineers will be part of it. DevOps engineers will be part of it. So when it comes to MLOps, it's all about building a ML model to feed inferences. I mean, we build ML model to make predictions. So when it comes to ML, we use broad scope of tools, libraries. We use a lot of libraries, a lot of different tools, right, to get started. So here we talk about data versioning, model artifacts versioning, model registries, source code versioning, and more. And here the artifacts would be serialized files, for example. And how do you validate your model? There are different stuff. So maybe we evaluate our model performance, right? So who are the stakeholders? I didn't specify all the stakeholders here. I just specified, okay, data scientists, ML engineers. We can say data engineers, and again, even operations team, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now let's talk about the different set of tools to be get started. Okay, for example, how do you decide what kind of a tool that you're going to use? Now let's get into the very important aspect. As I mentioned, still we have 1 hour to go. So there are live demo and you can able to download a free ebooks only if you stay till end of this session. There's more to learn and more that you can gain only if you stay till end of the session. Okay, don't leave, just stay. Okay, now let's come to the serious stuff. Different tools that are available in MLOps, for MLOps. How you should able to decide. How you should able to decide to pick the right tool for your organization. Okay, let's talk about this. So the first thing would be open source versus closed source. So there are open source tools and there are paid tools. What you pick, right? So we understand that. So open source tools are always, they are free, right? And one complexity comes with open source would be integration. So integrating open source tools with your tools, it's going to be difficult because if you don't have a lot of developers. So considering if that open source tools doesn't have a lot of supporting documentations or maybe support team to be supported, okay? Then comes platform versus a specific tool. I mean, there are platforms, we can call it as AutoML tools. There are platforms that organizations can able to pay a subscription, and this particular platform, they provide everything that you need, starting for designing any kind of pipelines. So basically here you need to pay a subscription based on a user. Okay, so then comes having the right model and production environment monitoring tools in a pipeline that you're going to build. So you need to ensure the kind of a pipeline that you're going to pick, whether it has a features for monitoring your ML model, not just ML model, monitoring the entire environment that you have built for MLOps pipelines. So understanding and ensuring, okay, so the bugs are documented and addressed in a meantime, right? So then comes so your MLOps teams to catch up the security and compliances concerns as part of MLOps pipeline that you're going to build. Then comes very important aspect, model templating and cataloging. So for example, let's say an organization has built a solid MLOps pipeline for one project. Okay, but your organization is never going to stop with one project. They're going to build similar projects for next 100 clients. Okay, are you going to reinvent your wheel again and again? Right, that doesn't make sense. Right, we don't want to reinvent a wheel again and again. So this is where templating and cataloging comes into picture. The kind of a MLOps pipeline that you have built already, it should be capable to catalog. I mean, you can able to use it as a template, and you can able to use this same template for the next 100 projects, right? With minimum changes in that. Okay. So then comes model training, tuning, and drift management. So a kind of an MLOps pipeline that you're going to choose, it should have let's say an automation that you can able to build for automated data preparation, automated model training, automated model deployment automatically, right? So we don't want to write a code again and again, right? Let's say consider that there is some drift has been identified in your model. It automatically sends a signal to your CI/CD pipeline. Your CI/CD pipeline automatically start preparing a data, start training ML model and deploying it automatically. So then comes pipeline management. So pipeline management is nothing but, let's say a new training has been started, a new cycle has been started. So let's say for every step, ensuring it can able to send a notification. Let's say for example, if let's say in the data preparation step, once the data preparation step is over, can it send a notification for you? Once the model building step is over, can it automatically trigger a notification for you, right? So pipeline management, what we're talking about. Then comes collaboration and communication capabilities. So this is where the actual, basically here, data engineers works closely with data scientists. So data scientists works closely with ML engineers. They have to communicate each other. So you need to ensure that the tool that you're going to pick, it has a way to document your commands, your questions, right? Or maybe whether this tool can able to integrate it with tools like maybe a Slack, for example, right? It may be a Slack or maybe a Trello, whatever the communication tools that you're going to use. Okay, so now we will talk about MLOps on top of a cloud. What does a cloud offers for you in terms of MLOps? Okay, so why cloud in the first step, right? So we understand that. So the cloud is everything, right? So obviously every industry is today is transforming to on top of a cloud, and more machine learning is happening on top of a cloud comparing with what's happening in on-premises data centers, right? So we understand that, let's say all we're going to talk in this particular program, in MLOps specialization program. So not just we're going to cover one single cloud. In our MLOps specialization course, we're going to cover AWS, Azure, GCP. I mean the three major cloud platforms in the world. So we'll be covering all the MLOps tool set on top of AWS, Azure, and GCP. Not just that, industry always asks for more, right? Right? Obviously, industries, not every industry use only tools on top of AWS, Azure, or GCP. There are a lot of open source tool sets they do use still, right? So yes, we do also cover open source tool sets. So now we will talk about the broad scope of tools that we're going to talk, and we're going to do hands-on during our MLOps specialization program. So let's say maybe the tools that we need to use to get started with a Git, right? So as I mentioned, for version all the code that you're going to write, we're going to use tools like it may be GitHub, it may be Bitbucket, right? It may be on top of AWS, we use something called AWS Code Commit. On top of GCP, we use something called Google Code Cloud Source Repositories. As part of an Azure, we're going to use Azure repositories. So these are the different set of tools that you can able to use to version your code. So then comes CI/CD tools, which I mean continuous integration and continuous deployment tools, right? So we understand what is CI/CD. CI/CD is all about a practice that is when it comes to DevOps. Let's talk about in the perspective of DevOps and MLOps. So when it comes to in the perspective of DevOps, it's all about maintaining a software development lifecycle. What do you mean by that? So here we go. So let's say here we have a simple representation. Okay, so when it comes to CI and CD, let's talk about, we have built a simple web application. Let's say we have built a simple e-commerce website. Okay, let's say we have built a simple e-commerce website, and let's say there is a pay now button on top of that e-commerce website, right? Something like this. So where customers are going to hit this pay now button to buy a product. Okay, so now our customers are keep on complaining, saying that we don't like the existing color of a pay now button. Let's say our existing color of a pay now button is in green. Okay, so now after getting a feedback, our developer is going to change the color of a button from green to red, and he's going to push the code. So what happens next? So this is where we're going to use a tools, a CI/CD tools. For example, we say code pipelines on top of AWS. So this is where our developer is going to push a code to source version control tool first initially. So what happens, for example, GitHub. So here I might have different branches. For example, I might have a one branch for dev, one branch for prod. I mean, I have a two different branches for two different environments where I want to deploy. So then comes our actual build tool. This is where we're going to use code build, or maybe once our code is built, it will generate artifacts, right? So let's say in the perspective of machine learning, once our model has been built, it will produce model artifacts. And once we have a model artifacts, then we're going to deploy it on top of a web server, for example. So here we are talking about web application. Let's say we deploy it on top of a web server. So here we have a separate environment for a dev and separate environment for a production. So what is this dev and prod? So dev is nothing but the exact replica of a production. So where a dev is deployed, where our developers can come and review first initially, let's say the new feature that he is releasing. Let's say the new feature is nothing but button turning to red color. So whether the button is red, he can able to come and click it. He can ensure that it is red and it is working perfectly fine. So once if he is satisfied, okay, the button is perfectly working fine. So then he deploys the same feature that he has deployed for dev to production right now. So the same perspective follows when it comes to MLOps. So let's say when it comes to MLOps, the pipelines might look something like this. So let's say here, as I mentioned, let's say here we have our developers and maybe our data engineers, our data scientists will be writing a lot of code and they will be pushing a code to a code repositories here. So this is where the first step, pre-processing of data, comes into the picture. Okay, so this is where we take a data and we start pre-processing it. So then comes model training step. So once our data is prepared, then comes model training step. So this is where, so we train an ML model. Then the next step would be model evaluation step. We evaluate a model, we generate metrics out of it. Then comes condition step. This is what I'm talking about, the quality gate. So this is where we decide, okay, so if my MSC score is less than or equal to 7, I will be registering my model to model registry. Otherwise, I don't register my model registry. So this is how we use a quality gate in order to ensure whether it is a quality model or not. So once I have a model from model registry, then let's say I use, let's say, code pipelines. Let's say this is where our CI CD tools comes into the picture. Let's say once I have a model in a model registry, let's say I want to build a Docker container, for example. I want to build a Docker image. Maybe I want to deploy this Docker image. Let's say I use CI CD tools to build, and let's say I deploy my model on top of two different environments as I did in DevOps. Let's say I will be initially deploying my model to dev environment. So then comes our team, maybe a data scientist or ML engineer comes and reviews it. Let's say whether it is really working fine and whether I can able to generate predictions. So once you're really satisfied with your dev environment, then again you'll be deploying that same model on top of a production environment. So this is where your customers actually facing your ML model. And again, it will be incorporated with model monitoring. So where we'll be keep on monitoring the quality of a model to ensure if there is any drift that is being produced in this ML model, if there is any data drift, if there is any concept drift, if there is any drift has been identified, our model monitoring tool will send a signal to our MLOps pipeline, where again, data pre-processing step will start automatically, data training step will automatically, and again, it will produce a new version of ML model. So this is what the continuous cycle, how it works. So now, what are the CI/CD tools that we go to learn in this particular program? For example, what are the tools that are available in the market? So for example, when it comes to CI/CD tools, we can say AWS core pipelines on top of AWS. It may be Azure code pipelines. It may be Azure pipelines. Basically, what we're talking about, Azure tools, which are part of Azure artifacts, Azure repos, Azure boards. When it comes to GCP, we can say a code build, code repositories. It may be the cloud deployment or cloud run, or maybe artifacts registries. Okay, as I mentioned, so basically the cloud tools may not be always enough, right? So then comes Dockers and Kubernetes, right? So this is where we're going to talk about in this program. We're going to also talk about Dockers, understanding Kubernetes, how you can able to build ML model and containerize it, and how you can able to deploy on top of Kubernetes cluster. It may be you want to deploy your model on top of Amazon-based EKS, which stands for Elastic Kubernetes Service, or maybe you want to deploy it on top of AKS on top of Azure, which stands for Azure Kubernetes Service, for example. And what are the model management tools that we're going to talk about? So for example, we're going to use MLflow, which is again an open source tool for managing your ML model, for managing model experimentation, for using ML flows and model registry. And again, we're going to talk about DVC, which is data version control tool for versioning your data. You can also use alternatively for DVC, you can able to use Git large files, which is again similar to DVC. Then comes a feature store. What are the varieties of feature stores that we're going to talk in this particular program? So we're going to talk about feature stores on top of Amazon SageMaker, feature store on top of Vertex AI, feature stores which is open source, very powerful, like Feast, feature stores on top of Databricks. How you can able to create your own feature store along with Amazon DynamoDB or maybe S3, or maybe using a subscription based feature stores like HubSpot or Tecton. Okay, so then comes cloud ML services. So here it's not just MLOps. Obviously, we need to understand how to use ML tools to build your ML model, right? So we're going to talk about Amazon SageMaker, Vertex AI, and Azure machine learning. So what I mean by that, we're going to build end-to-end pipelines, at least one project on every cloud. Not just that, as I mentioned, cloud platforms are not always a solution. So industries always look for open source where they can able to cut down a lot of costs. So here we're going to also cover Kubeflow, where you can able to build an open source based complete MLOps pipelines over there. Then comes model monitoring, because once you have deployed your ML model, monitoring makes essential. So we're going to talk about all the model monitoring tools on all the different cloud platforms. Along with that, open source model monitoring tools like Evidently AI. And not just that. So as I mentioned, still your organization goes for subscription-based systems. As I mentioned, AutoML tools, basically subscription-based systems. We're going to talk about Isgazio or Domino Data Labs, Volahai, or maybe Neptune.ai, or maybe weights and biases. There are different varieties of AutoML tools still organizations can able to use. We're going to talk about that too. Then comes post-deployment challenges. What happens once everything is deployed? We're going to talk about what are the software engineering related challenges, what will be the ML related challenges. Otherwise, let's say you want to deploy your models on top of edge devices, what would be the challenges? We're going to talk about all these things. Saying this, won't it be a fun to have a demo? Right, so here I'm going to show you a live demo on top of AWS. I have already built a template. I have already built a MLOps pipeline through the templates it's been provided. So I'm going to show you what I have done as of right now. Okay, saying this, so now let me just go to my AWS console, so where I can show you the live demo for you guys. Okay, now it's time, so don't leave the session. So still we have around 45 minutes to go as we promised. So stay till end of this session. You can able to enjoy a lot of demos, and along with what I'm talking, the premium discounts that you can able to get. Okay, saying this is SageMaker Studio, what you're trying to see in my screen. So I have built here I am using a template to model building, training, and deploying. So this is a root directory of a console, as I mentioned. So here is my repositories. So I have two different repositories. Consider this architecture what we discussed so far. I mean, so we have the same architecture what we are using, what I mentioned during the program here. Let me just go to that particular architecture. Yeah, here we go. So this is the same architecture what we are working. So let's say starting from a repository here. Okay. So saying that, so this is where I have two repositories, one repository for model deployment and one repository is for model building. Okay, so now let me just go to my pipelines. So here you can see I have my pipeline. Okay, once I go to my pipeline, I have my one pipeline. You can see my pipeline has been executed once. Okay, so let's say every time when there is a data drift has been identified, this pipeline might trigger again. That means it will be producing the new version of a ML model. So here we have our pipeline executed once. The status is successful. If I go inside that particular pipeline, you can able to see the exact pipeline that I built. So this is the blocks which is representing what I have done so far. So this is the use case where we are actually building a ML model to predict what is the age of an abalone. Okay, so if you don't know what is an abalone, it's a kind of a seafood. It's a sea snail. You can Google for abalone, you'll get. So basically, we are predicting an age of an abalone. So what are the steps involved in this? The first step would be pre-processing abalone data. Then comes training an ML model. Then comes evaluating abalone model. Then comes check MSC abalone evaluation. Then comes register a model to model registry. So let me just go in detail right now. So now in the first step, what we are trying to do, pre-processing an abalone data. As part of pre-processing, what do we expect? We want to split our data into testing, validation, and training data set. So once my data has been split, I'm storing all this data in something called Amazon S3, which is nothing but a storage service in AWS. So now I have my testing, validation, and train data set. Then comes train abalone model. See, as part of train abalone model, this is where we train ML model. At end of our model training, what do we expect? We expect as an output ML model. You can able to see this is my ML model, model.tar.gaz. As part of AWS, our models will be compressed into model.tar.gz, and it is also stored in my S3 bucket here. And then comes metrics. As part of a model training, it will output a metrics. Here we are calculating RMSE, the root mean square error. So where I have my metrics for training data and I have my metrics for validation data that I can able to use it later. So once your model has been trained, what else that we do? Then we go for a model evaluation step. So this is where we evaluate our model. This is where we generate metrics. Maybe I want to calculate MSE score. Maybe I want to generate standard deviation out of it. So I generate all those metrics. I save that metrics data in storage service again, where I can able to use it later. Then comes quality gate. This is what I'm talking about, the quality gate that we discussed during the slide. So this is the quality gate where I'm going to write a logic to decide whether it's a good model. Do I need to register that to model registry or not? So this is where I'm actually checking. So whether my MSC score is less than or equal to 7, it's actually register my model to model registry. If it is greater than or equal to 7, it won't register my model to model registry. So you can see my MSC score is actually less than or equal to 7. So that's why it is true. It has registered my model to model registry. So you can see my MSC score in model registry, which is 4.58, which is actually less than or equal to 6. Okay. So this is what exactly my pipelines looks like. And now let me show you how am I going to deploy my model to dev environment. Isn't it awesome? I'm going to show you how to deploy my model to dev environment. So before that, here we have an experiment option. This is where we conducted all the experiments. I mean, so we might have conducted 3 different experiments. So one experiment for let's say model pre-processing our data. So you can see here for pre-processing our data, we done one experiment. So for model training, we have done one experiment. For evaluating your ML model, we have done one experiment. So all your experiments will be logged here. And then comes model group. This is what I'm talking about, model registry. This is where we version all our ML models. If I double click, if I go inside, here we go. Here you can see I have my first version of my ML model, which says version number 1, stage is none, status is pending. That means it's not deployed yet. It is actually waiting for me to approve that. Okay, now I'm going to double click this. I'm going to go to the next stage. So here you can see the approval status is pending. I'm going to hit this update status button where I'm going to say from pending, I'm going to say approve. I'm going to hit on update status. So you can able to see this is what I'm talking about, the manual approval. So what happens as a best practice, let's say once we are training a new version of ML model, we don't want to directly go and deploy my model to production ready environment. Instead, we want someone in the hierarchy of your team want to manually come and approve your ML model, right? Because let's say it should not send the bad version model to your customers at the end of the day, right? So now you can see my model is being deployed. In a few minutes, you should able to see that my model will be deployed to endpoint. So as part of what is this endpoint? Here we are deploying our model to real-time endpoint where I can able to use it to make some real-time predictions. I'm going to show you how to make this real-time predictions. It's going to take a few minutes to deploy. In the meantime, let's try to see what else that we have to learn. Okay, so now let's go back to the slides. So now let's move on to understand very important aspect. So how does MLOps job industry looks like? Who should learn MLOps in the first time, right? Okay, let's get started. So who should be part of MLOps? Who should learn MLOps specialization program? Anyone who is part of building ML project, anyone who is part of any business who is solving ML problems, for example. You might be a data scientist, yes. You might be a data engineer or you might be a data analyst. who is preparing a data, analyzing a data for ML use case. You might be a research or maybe applied scientist working on top of building new algorithms or something like that. You might be an existing ML engineer, or you might be a DevOps engineer, otherwise ML engineer, who is actually building CI/CD pipelines, managing those CI/CD tools, version control tools for ML organization. If you're an aspiring MLOps professional or an enthusiast, or maybe any machine learning professionals who want to learn how to deploy your ML models to production, or anyone who want to learn Dockers, Kubernetes, AWS, Azure, GCP, data version control tools, Feast, open source feature store, MLflow, open source a model experimentation and model registry tools, right? You should able to join this course. Or any individual who has an interest in data and AI industry. So this is what, so you need to learn. This is what your course is for, MLOps specialization program. Okay, so let's try to understand how does a salary looks like, how does an income scale looks like for every professional. And again, here we go. So here we have a data that's been displayed for both US and Indian market. Obviously, US market is always high, right? So for US, the average salary, here I'm talking about an average salary. Again, this is not a random data that we took, it's based on a research data. So here is an average salary for MLOps engineer would start from 94,520 per year. And let's talk about India. So this data is available for you in sixfigure.com. You can also go to sixfigure.com. You can able to check this data by yourself. So this is an average salary for someone who has MLOps skills on their resume, okay, which start from 23.1 lakhs per annum. So I'm talking about an average salary who will be, let's consider that, who has someone who has a 1 or 3 years of experience, right? But let's say you might be more than, you might have more than that experience, so you might be lying in this particular range, right? So maybe 33% of people's, it might be around 10 to 20 lakhs, maybe 42% of people's would be lying between 20 to 30 lakhs, 25 would be between 30 to 40 lakhs. It depends on what's your current experiences. As I mentioned, for it is must for data engineers, it is must for data scientists, it is must for ML engineers. You might be the one who is actually using a tool that is already organizations are decide to work on. Otherwise, as I mentioned, you can also apply for the roles which I say MLOps specialist, MLOps lead engineers, architect. So those are someone who will be managing, so let's say supervising the entire team of people who are building ML models, right? So we definitely understand that. So it's a time where industries are actually moving and productionizing their AI. And again, so our the job vacancy trend, when we talk about ML, it's really picking up. It's never came down. It started its a trend picking up from 2019 to till 2023. The trends are picking up, right? So again, the best recession-proof career and a recession-proof skill, what we could able to say, right? I mean, considering what every industry has done. So for in last 10 years, so now they want to production of that AI and they want to go for industries. But today, if you see, every data engineers are every data engineers has a skills to build data engineering pipelines to bring a data. Every data scientist has a skill to, let's say, build a well quality ML model, right? But so what's your MLOps skill set? What makes every organizations to make their way to go for a production, right? That's really matters. Saying that, so let's try to learn more insightful data like this. Now let us try to check out what's happening in our model deployment. So now you can see what's happening in my screen. So you can see under endpoints, you can see something is, it's saying demo test staging, it says creating. I mean, it's actually deploying my ML model. And you can see now it's been deployed, it says in service. Okay, now I have successfully deployed my model. So now let me double click. So this is my model, and let me just go to settings. Let me copy my name of my model, and this is the REST API that your developers can able to use. This is an HTTPS REST API where they can able to use to build, I mean, client-side applications, definitely, right? So now here I have Jupyter notebooks that I'm going to use it to make a prediction out of it. So let me just open my simple notebook. I'm going to invoke my model that I have deployed to a staging environment. I'm going to also show you how to deploy to model to production. Only if you stay till end of the session. You can also download free ebooks. Okay, so still we have an half an hour to go. Don't disconnect. Okay, so here is a simple script that I'm going to use in order to invoke my model. Okay, I'm going to call my model, which is deployed to a dev right now, and let's see what happens. Okay, here we go. This is the age that I'm predicting. I'm actually predicting an age of an abalone which says 9.60. So this predictions are directly coming from my development environment. Okay, so saying that, it's fun, right? So now let's learn more about this. So now we understand what is really MLOps is and what it takes to become a specialist on top of it. And let's try to understand how fast the industries are being transforming. Okay, so I would like to display this particular picture for all my participants. So this is a best example always to get some clarity. Like, so between 2009 to 2019, in just one decade, I mean just in 10 years, you could able to see this transformation happened pretty much fast. In just 10 years, a cameraman and it made the pilot has been completely replaced with drones, right? So you can see now there is no cameraman or maybe a pilot who is traveling with a huge camera for a news report or maybe for shooting a movie or something. It's been, this complete industry is being replaced by drones. And again, that's how exactly ML or maybe MLOps what we're talking about. Okay, so now we will talk about our specialization program. So when is this program is going to start, how you can able to register, what's the curriculum, right, all those stuff. So this program is going to start from April 15th of April. So what's the schedule? So starting from 15th of April, every Saturday and Sunday, this is going to be for 7 weekends. So this is going to be for 7 weekends. Every Saturday and Sunday, we're going to have a session. I mean, every Saturday, Sunday, it's going to be for 4 hours. I mean, it's going to be, if you're joining from India, it's going to be 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Let's say if you're joining from European time standard, it's going to be 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Otherwise, let's say if you're joining from CET time zone, it's going to be 3:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Yeah. So saying this, so what else other things that we have to learn, right? So now how does this workflow is going to be look like? Okay, so as I mentioned, every weekend you're going to have a live hands-on session. Every Saturday, Sunday, we're going to learn the things what we're going to mention in the curriculum, and every Monday you're going to receive an access to recordings. So yes, every Monday you'll be receiving an access to recordings, and every Tuesday or maybe Wednesday, this is going to be an optional, and again it's going to be convenient for you. So how, based on the availability of a candidate throughout the weekend, and this is an optional session. It's not mandate that you need to attend, because we understand everyone here, 99% of people are working professionals. So this is a debugging session, is nothing but it's a basically one-on-one session. So where post the live sessions on our next weekends, weekdays, will be helping our participants in debugging if they have any issues, or maybe if you have any questions that they're willing to ask. So we help them debug their issues in this debugging session is going to be one-on-one. So that's how the structure works. And now let's get into the more stuff. The MLOps specialization program, as I mentioned, it's going to be 60 hours. So basically 7 weekends, seven weekends, and it's going to be there are 50 plus live hands-on labs. Just consider it's about AWS, Azure, GCP, open source tools. Okay, so then there are 5 plus real-time projects that we're going to build on top of this program, and one-on-one debugging from industry mentors. So now we will talk about the actual curriculum. So what is being covered in this particular program. Here comes a very interesting part. Okay, so I'm going to share this PDF anyway in few minutes in a chat window. You can able to download this PDF, so you can able to get all the details. So what we are covering in this program. So there are totally 13 modules what we will be covering in this program. So in a first module, this is where we'll be getting started with understanding what is really MLOps, understanding high level motivation of MLOps, and understanding, let's say, how does a life cycle looks for an MLOps, and understanding what's the relationship between what is DevOps, what is AI ops, what is model ops, what is this GitHubs, and all those stuff. Understanding CI/CD case studies, the very interesting part where we're going to learn about how other organizations have used AWS, Azure, GCP, or maybe open source tool sets to build MLOps pipelines for their projects. Then comes module number 2, introduction to MLOps and MLOps stages. So this is where we're going to talk about maturity, MLOps maturity model, trying to understand how does every organization how does their workflow looks like, right? So there are different maturity levels for organization from level 0 to level 4, how they are transforming, right? Every industry. So then comes detailed understanding of versioning, testing, CI/CDs, reproducibility, and other concepts. Then understanding MLOps architectures, comparing with both open source tools and cloud native tools. As part of open source tools, we're going to talk about Kubeflow, MLflow, Metaflow, Kedros, it may be ZenML or MLrun or CML. Then comes our architectures on top of AWS. We're going to talk about AWS architecture for MLOps, GCP architecture, and Azure architecture. So then we're going to talk about different tools, different varieties of tools that are available in the market that you can able to pick. And again, just imagine this. Today you might be working in an organization where they're using AWS, right? And maybe tomorrow you might be working in an organization they're going to use GCP, or maybe someone they want to use open source tools like, right? Maybe Dockers or Kubernetes. So everything is being covered in this particular program. So I mean, so you get a 360-degree view of the complete MLOps, what's happening in industry. So then comes module 3. This is where we're going to get started with a Git. It's going to be completely hands-on. So we have specified if that particular module has an hands-on, we have specified it's an hands-on clearly over there. So then comes introduction to CI/CD. This is where we're going to learn about DevOps. So obviously understanding DevOps and DevOps tools is essential when we are getting into MLOps. So we're going to build at least one project in every different cloud on top of DevOps. Okay, so the projects are being done on top of AWS DevOps, GCP, and also on Azure. It's going to be really fun to work. Okay, then comes module 5, Dockers and Kubernetes. So we're going to dive deep into understanding Dockers, building Docker containers, deploying your ML models on top of Docker containers. Not just that, then comes understanding Kubernetes, building and deploying your Kubernetes clusters and deploying your ML models on Kubernetes clusters. This is definitely the project has been involved deploying your model top of a Docker container and deploying your model on top of Kubernetes container. Not just that, then comes module 6, Kubernetes deployment strategy. This is where we're going to talk about how you can able to deploy the ML model on top of any one of the cloud platforms. So how to deploy this ML model on top of Amazon EKS, Elastic Kubernetes Service on top of AWS. Then comes introduction to model management. This is where we're going to talk about model management tools, for example, for data versioning, code versioning, experiment tracking, model registries, and model monitoring. So this is where we're going to talk about MLflow. We're going to cover MLflow end to end, and there are projects that we're going to build. I mean, first step, we're going to learn how to deploy ML stack and how to build, train, and deploy models using MLflow. Then comes DVC. So we're going to learn how to use DVC. We're going to take a data. We're going to learn how to version it, right? And we're also going to learn Git large files. Then comes module number 8, feature store. This is where we're going to learn what is exactly feature store is, what's the importance of that, how you can able to maintain a schema repository over there. So learning about various different feature stores that are available in the market, understanding SageMaker feature store, Vertex AI feature store, Database feature store, Tacton, and Feast. Especially here, we're going to use open source feature store, which is very famous. That is Feast feature store, where we're going to build Feast feature store, and we're going to build like what we call it as online and offline feature store on top of it. Then comes Cloud ML Service 101. So this is where we're going to talk about and where we're going to build end-to-end MLOps pipeline on every different cloud platform. I mean, starting from AWS SageMaker pipelines. So whatever the pipeline that I've built, you're going to build it along with me during the session. Then comes GCP Vertex AI, using Vertex AI to build end-to-end MLOps pipelines. Then comes Azure MLOps pipeline. So this is where we're going to build end-to-end pipelines on top of Azure. Then comes module 10, talking about Kubeflow. So what is exactly Kubeflow? How organizations can able to use Kubeflow as an open source framework for their ML use cases, how to build pipelines on top of it. So the project has been built on top of it. Then comes module number 11. So this is where we're going to talk about model monitoring. So what's the importance of model monitoring? What are the different varieties of tools that are available on AWS, GCP, and Azure for model monitoring, right? And again, we're going to build a project on top of a cloud. Then comes introduction to AutoML tools. This is where we're going to talk about all these different AutoML tools, and one demo will be provided at least on top of it. Then comes a final module, post-deployment challenges, understanding what are the challenges that our ML engineers will be faced, what are the challenges our software engineers will be faced, and what are the challenges when you're deploying your ML models on top of edge devices like IoT devices, for example. And we'll be also doing a hands-on on top of evidently AI, monitoring your ML models. So this is the complete curriculum what we're offering. It's really robust. And so now let's discuss about how does our actual price structure looks like. Let's get started. So we have three different plans for this program. So for a reason, we have splitted this price into three different parts. So the ideology is pretty much simple. We don't want to feed something that is not necessary for the participants. So we have three different plans: advanced plus, advanced plan, and basic plan. So our advanced, the actual fee, so for advanced plan starts from 39,999. I mean 39,999. Then comes our advanced plan starts with 34,999, and then we have our basic plan starts with 32,999. Okay, why do we have this splitted price? What's the difference? Okay, let's try to understand. Okay, so we have three different price plans: basic, advanced, or maybe advanced plus. So it doesn't matter what are the plan that you take. Either you take basic plan, advanced, or maybe advanced plus. Doesn't matter. There's an equal opportunity that is given for participants to learn the course. I mean, every participants will have a legacy to attend live sessions, and everyone will be receiving access to recordings, and everyone can able to attend the debugging sessions, what I'm talking about. So then what's the difference? So let's say people who are choosing advanced or maybe advanced plus plan. So here you're going to get a premium support from us. So what do you mean by that? Let's say when it comes to advanced plan, you get additional two features. One is a 6 months of technical job support completely for free. What do you mean by 6 months of technical job support? Consider that even though once you're completing this particular program, you'll be definitely having let's say specialist level knowledge to get started with any different organization. But even though, consider that there is a virtual mentor for you, supporting you virtually, helping you debugging issues in your project, or maybe helping you providing some consulting, or maybe helping you in let's say providing a consulting in a way that you can able to, let's say if your organization is asking you to build a feature store, right? So maybe what kind of a feature store that your organization has to pick. So providing an ideology, right? As part of debugging, as part of job support, we cannot provide you, let's say what I mean, we cannot build a project behalf of you, we cannot code for you, but it's literally a technical job support which we will ensure we can able to push you in a job, right? Then comes bonus retake opportunity. This is an awesome feature. So what do you mean by the bonus retake opportunity? As I mentioned, so 99% of people who attend this programs will be working professionals. What happens? Sometimes we might miss one or two live sessions. That does happen. So bonus retake live session is nothing but you get two opportunities to take this program. I mean, you can able to attend two batches. I mean, let's say if you're registering for April 15th batch, not just attending this batch, you can also attend the next batch also. There are a couple of benefits comes with that. So the benefits would be this. Yeah, even though if you're missing one or two live sessions, you can able to rejoin our next batch and you can retake this live sessions once again. And there might be the new syllabus update. We keep on making changes to the syllabus. Maybe you want to retake that and you want to check out the new things that you can learn in next batch, right? There are different benefits. So then comes advanced plus plan. So where instead of you getting 6 months of job support, you're going to get 1 year of job support, and again you're going to get the bonus retake opportunity. I mean, you can take this course twice, and then comes instance access. I mean, our session is going to start from 15th of April. So what happens? You don't have to wait till 15th of April. Let's say if you're going to register in maybe 1 or 2 days, you're going to get an instant access to our previous batch recordings. What happens? You're going to be able to get started immediately. And once 15th comes into the picture, you can able to rejoin the live sessions again. Okay. So when it comes to USD, let's say if you're looking for the price structure in USD, so our advanced plan looks like $599, and for our advanced plan looks like $499, and our basic plan looks like $449, $449. Okay. And again, the same features being involved. And it won't be a fun in our festival season without providing any surprises. And again, this benefit is being only offered for the peoples who are joined this demo session, which is happening today. So we have some awesome premium discounts that we are offering. It's going to really blow up your mind. So let me just mention what is that. And again, this offer is going to stay for till 27th of March. I mean, whoever is going to register for this program by 27th of March, all you're going to get is this free upgradation offer. Okay, what is this free upgradation offer? Let's say you're looking for advanced plan. I will suggest not to register for advanced plan. Just by registering for basic plan, we will be doing a free upgrade to advanced plan. I mean, a basic plan which costs you 32,999. By registering for 32,999, you will get advanced plan which is costing 34,999. Okay, so then comes, let's say you might be looking for advanced plus plan. I will suggest not to register for advanced plus plan. Just by registering for advanced plan, you're going to get advanced plus plan. I mean, this is a free upgradation offer till 27th only, and this is for the first 10 registrations only. It's a first come first serve because we cannot afford this for a long time. So 27th, still we have solidly 5 more days if I'm not wrong. So this is only for the first 10 people, as I mentioned. If you register for basic, you're going to get advanced plan, and if you register for advanced plan, you're going to get advanced plus plan completely for free. So this is a free upgradation offer. Don't miss it. And again, you can check the details what we are mentioning, what is these features are. And usually for working professionals, we would able to see they either take advanced or maybe advanced plus plan. You can able to decide accordingly. And who is Cytron Technologies, and so why do you care about, why do you think we are the best people to teach you? And again, so we've been supported by, let's say, a Department of Science and Technology India. We've been incubated in PhD STEP, and we've been represented ourselves in a various different organizations and international stages. We've been part of Activate program in AWS. And again, so we have, as I mentioned, we do trainings for both corporates. We have trained corporates like Royal Bank of Scotland and other clients. Anything, as I mentioned, as part of AWS, Azure, GCP, MLOps, so we are the best people. So you can also check out our previous batch participants feedback to get more clarity. How do we teach, how it's going to be? So I'm the trainer, I'm the person, I'm going to be a trainer for our next program. So, and I'm going to share a PDF where you can able to download the curriculum, where you can also check out this feedbacks, what I mentioned in the slides in detail over there. Okay, saying that, so now let me quickly share your links where you can download the PDF, the registration link, and other informations. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to share these links for you. The first link is going to be for a registration link, and second link where you can able to download the curriculum. I mean, you can able to download this same PDF. And the third link, as I mentioned here, you can able to download a premium ebooks where you can learn more about, let's say, the good practices on top of AWS and other platform-based tools. And here is my contact details. If you want to ask more questions, feel free to contact me. I'm going to share these links in the chat window. Go ahead. I'm going to open a session for Q&A in a few more minutes. You can ask a truckload of questions. I'm interested to answer all your questions. Okay. So now, let's say if you click the first link, you'll be redirected to a console which will look like this, which says Townscript. This is going to be a payment gateway. And so once you go to this particular link, here you can able to find the same informations. I mean, you can able to check out the curriculum and all other details here. And let's say if you want to book the seats, you can hit book now. So then you'll be redirected to a console, so where you can able to select the seats that you're interested in. Let's say if you register for advanced or maybe advanced plus, if you are an Indian participant, you can feel free to select Indian participant seats. Otherwise, if you're joining from any different country, feel free to select dollars. And one more opportunity, let's say if you're registering for 2 seats, by default, you're going to get 10% discount automatically. I mean, let's say if you're registering along with your friend, if you're registering 2 seats at the same time, you can save 10% discounts. Along with that, consider that you have a free upgradation offer. Along with that, you have a 10% discount if you're registering for your friends or maybe along with your colleagues. Okay, saying that, so now let us get back. I will show you how we're going to deploy our model on top of production environment. So then we will open up a session for Q&A. Okay, so now I have deployed my model on top of dev environment. So now I'm going to show you how we're going to deploy a model on top of production ready environment. So in order to approve my model to deploy on top of production ready environment, I'm going to use code pipeline. As I mentioned, it's a CI/CD tool. So here I have a pipeline that I built already, so that all I'm going to do approve my model to be deployed to a production ready environment. So here you can see we have a source where our code is coming from, where our build is happening, and here it is actually waiting for my approval to be deployed to a production ready environment. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to simply hit review, and here I can mention a commands if it is needed, and I'm going to say approve. That's it, as simple as that. So this is where I'm approving my model to be deployed to a production ready environment. So now it's being deployed. It's going to take a few more minutes to deploy a model in a production ready environment. So in a few minutes, we can able to check out here our model, our production deployment model will appear. So now I will open my session for Q&A. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm here to answer. Till our model is deployed, let's go ahead and we will have a discussion. Feel free to unmute your mic and you can ask your questions. Otherwise, you can also ask your questions in a chat window. I'm here to answer. Okay. So if you're using your mic to talk to me, please mention your name and what you do. Then you can able to ask your question. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir, this is Bhavan. Can you hear me?
Hello, yes. May I know your name? Yes, sir, go ahead.
I have one question. Like this is the 4 hours a bit long, but long. Just a minute, I'm going.
Sorry, Bhavani. So your voice is breaking. I mean, I couldn't able to get your complete voice. I guess looks like there's some disturbance.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, you're audible right now. Go ahead.
So, sir, is there any other option like it's quite a long 4 hour session to concentrate continuously on, and especially on weekends? Uh, just asking, is there like 4 hour is always like you said 7 weekends means 40
Yep.
14 classes.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So I got it. Okay. So you mean, okay, 4 hours, you might feel it's long. Okay. So definitely understand. I mean, it's not going to be 4 hours. Okay. So it's not going to sit in a seat for the next 4 hours. It's going to be trouble, obviously. So there is a break between that. Definitely going to be a break. I mean, let's say, even though, let's say if we are starting a training our 7 p.m., we'll be having our 5 minutes waiting time, 10 minutes waiting time. There we'll be losing 5 to 10 minutes, and again we'll be having a break. So I don't think so. Like 4 hours, you'll be completely sitting in your seat. So definitely, it's going to be not exactly the 4 hours learning. There will be a break.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. Please let me know if there is any other questions. I can see Gopi asked a question. I am from mainframe ops. 10 years of experience. Is that possible for mainframe MLOps? That's a good question, Gopi. So Gopi is saying is already from a mainframe ops. Let's consider he has good skills on DevOps. Is that a good practice that you can able to shift from MLOps? Definitely yes. Obviously, what happens for DevOps people, it is pretty much easier for you to upgrade your skills over here because you are already into DevOps, you understand the traditional DevOps tools. I mean, so here the traditional DevOps tools are exactly same, right? So we're going to use Jenkins, we might use Azure pipelines, or maybe like AWS code pipelines. So the traditional DevOps tools are not going to be changed here. And again, the only thing that you're going to upgrade here, what is apart from that that is needed, talking about data version control tools, model registries, it may be model monitoring things. Those things will be new for you, but apart from that, I don't think so there is like any problem for you to upgrade here. I guess it's going to be a smooth upgradation, I will say, for you in that perspective. Yeah. And again, as I'm considering, Gopi, you have experience of 10 years. That's good. So I guess you can also look forward for the roles as I'm talking about, MLOps specialist, MLOps architect. So again, some kind of a lead roles, which definitely brings you more value. Yes, folks, use your mic. You can ask your questions.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. So please mention your
Yeah, hi
name
Sharid.
and
I'm Devi, and I have completed
hi, Dave.
my PG program in data science and machine learning.
Okay.
And I'm looking for a transition. I mean, into technical role like data science, looking into this domain. So as you
Okay.
mentioned, like it is like this program is for 7 weekends, and I feel like we have heard lot new things in this 2 hour session itself. So will there
Definitely.
7 weekend will be sufficient to cover what all you mentioned about the curriculum?
Yeah, so definitely yes, it's 100%, and again we are not doing this for the first time. So we already done one batch for this year. We had just done with a previous batch last weekend, if I'm not wrong. So the 60 hours, it's basically 60 hours, definitely it's more than enough to learn. And again, to point out, this is not a data science course and this is not a programming course where we'll be teaching how to write Python or how to train a model. No, this is not a data science course. So this is a course, let's say, and again, it's a place, let's say once, if you are a data scientist, if you have a skill sets on how to build a model, you understand how model training happens. So this is an upgradation for you. So this is not a programming course or a data science course where we'll be teaching about how algorithm works, all those stuff. So keeping those things aside, 60 hours, definitely it's more than enough for you to become a specialist on top of MLOps here. And again, as I mentioned, one more thing to be pointed out. So please don't consider this program is only on weekends. As I mentioned, there's some more support is being offered. As I mentioned, every weekend we're going to have a session. Every Monday we'll be receiving an access to recordings, and throughout the entire weekdays we'll be providing a support. For a reason here, we have split it. Okay, so either Tuesday or Wednesday we're going to have a debugging session. So there we'll be supporting one-on-one for every participants. If you have any questions or bugs or anything that you couldn't be able to catch up during a live session, we'll be supporting you during a debugging session. And debugging session doesn't mean it only happens on Tuesday or Wednesday. So we have our participants, they ask questions throughout the entire weekend. So we will be ready to support all the peoples over there. So putting everything together, we cannot say it's 60 hours, it's more than that.
And about the labs which you have mentioned, so will that lab covers all the tools which you have mentioned, or it is like very few
Definitely,
tools like that?
definitely every tools that we have mentioned in the curriculum, you will be building the project along with me. And again, the more interesting part over here, it's going to be a live hands-on, it's going to be a live project. I mean, whatever I build on my screen, what are the projects that we will be building on our screen, you'll be literally replicating on your screen. So that's how it works. So yeah, so definitely yes, what are the tools that we have mentioned here? So definitely going to do an hands-on on top of it. Yeah.
And also one last question, like I would like to hear from you as a piece of advice. I have completed this PGP program, but I'm not good at coding skills. And
Okay.
I'm looking into switch over into technical domain into data science. So will MLOps, as MLOps doesn't covers much on coding, right? So MLOps will be a good option for me.
I mean, so what do you mean by doesn't cover coding? We don't teach coding here. That's the aspect. And that's a good, that's a good question that you asked. It's a pretty much good say. Let's say, for example, so I mean, there are different kind of roles that are available in a data science. So for example, there is a person, and again, a woman who joined a previous batch. She doesn't have any programming experience at all. And again, she is working on a model deployment side. So where she is always working on top of grabbing a data from model monitoring tools, building analytics, reports. Basically, she works on a deployment side, right? So, and again, basically what I'm talking about ML engineering side. So let's say when it comes to ML engineering side, you'll be working on the CI/CD tools on top of Azure, GCP, it may be on a different cloud platforms. So there, so what I will see, like what I can see, you won't be coding like what our data science or maybe data engineers are coding, right? So there you'll be pretty much working on maintaining the pipelines, right? So those kind of an aspect. I mean, there are multiple options what I could able to see, maybe that you could able to be part of. So maybe, I mean, I'm talking in the perspective of, if you're not really good at programming and you want to be in a journey of ML, so maybe ML engineering would be one of the good part that you can able to check it out actually. Yeah. And again, if you're seriously interested also to be a programmer, definitely growing your programming skill sets definitely helps. And again, we understand that, again, it doesn't mean that, okay, if you have no programming experience, you cannot get started with this program. So as part of, we are into data science, we provide an additional resources for the people who want to, let's say, refresh their Python skills. We have a resources that we do provide it for a free, that would help you to boost up your Python skills even though. Yeah.
Yeah, why I raise this question is because I know how the model works. What are these models? The
Good.
RMSE which you have mentioned. I have those knowledge, but from coding side, I don't have very good hands-on or the
So
logical
that's
thinking which
not
you
a
have
problem.
mentioned.
As I mentioned, there are different roles that you can able to tap into here. Okay, look for for example, ML engineer, as I mentioned. So maybe for getting started, maybe, yeah, you don't want to be an expert like a data scientist. Okay, yeah, that's it. Okay, let me just go to the next question. Okay, I couldn't able to capture the name, someone who has named it as VI. What is the career path of this role? Also, it is good fit for a production manager. And okay, product manager, that's awesome. And how are the opportunities in India? Yeah, that's good. So I mean, as I mentioned, if you're a product manager, definitely it's a great opportunity. And again, there are product managers who are part of our previous batches. So let me tell you how. So as I mentioned, as part of a salary range, let me just try to display that particular slide once again. So this data is from sixfigure.com in India. So this is actually generated after verifying 12 profiles and MNCs in India. So an average salary for someone who has an MLOps skills. Okay, I'm not talking about people who has MLOps lead engineers or someone who is applying for MLOps specialist. They comes above average. Okay, so this is the people who has MLOps skill set on their resume. It's actually start from 23.1 lakhs in India. And again, product managers is a great fit. I can, considering you are a product manager, considering the keyword manager, I guess you can be part of, let's say, lead roles. I'm talking about MLOps specialist, MLOps architect, or maybe MLOps lead engineer. That would be the right fit. Okay. Okay, here we have a question. So what type of a project we're going to work, like a deep learning, NLP? That's a good question. Okay, so Bala, as I mentioned, so this is an MLOps program, and here we don't teach what is NLP and what is deep learning is. So as I mentioned, but it doesn't mean that we will be not building a project on top of it. Yes, we're going to build on different cloud platforms. We're going to pick up a different technology, maybe supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and maybe reinforcement learning technique. I mean, so here majorly we focus on building a pipelines, and these pipelines, especially, they are fit to serve any kind of a framework. For example, you want to, as you mentioned, you want to train a deep learning models on top of it. Yes, these pipelines can be fit for it. You might want to train NLP based models. Yes, these pipelines are fit for it. Okay, so there are, in different cloud platforms, we pick up different techniques. It may be deep learning, NLP, it may be regression, it may be classification, but we don't focus what is exactly classification is, how classification works. It's not that focus. It's about the pipeline, how you fit classification model, how do you fit regression model, right, on top of it. Okay, let me know if you guys got any other questions. I'm here to help. I'm going to spare
Hey
few
Sharath,
more minutes. Hey, Sharath. Hey, go ahead.
this is
Please mention your name.
just want to check. Is this a certification course or how is it?
May I know your name? I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Vivek. Sorry, this is Vivek.
Okay, Vivek. Hi, Vivek. So as of right now, there is no cloud platforms are offering cloud certification program. No. So there are no cloud programs as of right now. It's offering certification program. It's a program certified from Citron Technologies. So, and again, so way this program has been structured, it's not just randomly structured from an internet. And again, so it's the program and it's a takeovers from our clients. Let's say, for example, when we work with different clients, for example, so we understand what's their requirement. So for example, what kind of a tools they are using, what organizations are doing, so how their organizations are transforming. So that's how, after taking a lot of pretty much research work, so that's the way we have structured this particular program. And this program is certified from Citron Technologies.
Hi, Sarath. I have another question. Being 10-year experience in DevOps, and after getting this training, 7 or 8 week training, how much I will be available to face or appear in interview? Like from like how much I need to put from my efforts to get such interview and clear these interviews?
Okay, that's a good question. That's awesome. So one more thing that I would like to mention as part of our offerings here. So we do support participants for resume preparation. I would like to mention this, then I would like to answer your question. And we also support you in job updates and interview questions. Let me tell you how it works. So this resume preparation, which is part of advanced or maybe advanced plus plan. So like, let's say, as I mentioned, so as you mentioned, you have a 10 years of experience. Someone might have a 5 years of experience. Someone might be coming from data science background. He has a 3 years of experience. The first step, let's say, it starts from resume preparation. Like apart from before resume preparation, so definitely once once you're done with this particular program, so you're definitely going to have pretty much a specialist level ideology on what's really MLOps is about. And again, as I mentioned, so for DevOps peoples, you guys are not new, right? As part of what is traditional DevOps tools that we are using here, building CI/CD pipelines, all those stuff. So once you complete this program, the next step, the resume preparation, understanding your the current experience. First, we will be asking you to draft a resume. So then we will be making some changes after reviewing that and suggesting some changes. Once we are done with that, so then the next step would be you can able to start applying for the job opportunities. And again, as part of our job updates, so we do have corporates approaching us after checking out the structure of a course that we are offering. So they ask them, okay, can you just give me a participants, I mean your participants who can able to fit for this particular skills. And we have a team, especially their only responsibility is to do a research and to get the skill sets, especially what you'll learn from this particular program from an internet. So in that way, so the next thing would be providing an opportunity for interview questions with your own interview preparations. And again, when it comes to MLOps, let's see, the recruiters would be pretty much new and what is exactly they have to look forward for MLOps. And again, considering an organizations who are in initial stage in building up a pipelines. So this interview questions will definitely help you to get started for the initial interview preparations. So this is how we also streamline the participants, how they can able to proceed further. Yeah.
Hi, Sharat. My
Yes.
name is Raghav.
Hi,
I'm a
Raghav.
student.
Yes.
I'm a student actually doing my master's. I'm kind of new to this. Are there any prerequisites for this course?
As I mentioned, the prerequisites are thus. So if you are part of, let's say, ML data science in any way, okay, let me just go to that. So if you are, let's say, if you are a data scientist, data engineers, or maybe like analyst, are having the skills on ML DevOps. So for example, as a student, you'll be fitting into, let's say, individual interest in a data or maybe AI industry, as I'm mentioning. So you might be from a master's, so not from a bachelor's. Okay, that's good. So you're from master's. So the prerequisites would be this: if you are good at understanding ML, you understand what's the algorithm, like how this model training happens. Or if you are into data, let's say if you understand how data engineering pipelines has been built, how they accumulated data, preparing a data, transforming a data, right? Otherwise, you understand how DevOps work, at least if you have some skill sets over there. So that would be the only prerequisites that you need to get started with this program. So let's say if you're saying, okay, I'm completely new to ML, I have no knowledge on ML, I don't have Python programming at all. No, I don't think so. This program is for you.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
Yeah. Go ahead, folks, if you have any questions. I'm going to check for the few more questions that is there in the
Last question,
chat.
Sarath, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. It's okay. Ask me as the questions you need.
How much knowledge we required from Kubernetes side to appear in this course?
You need a zero knowledge, because we will be getting started for Kubernetes from scratch in this program, definitely. I mean, Kubernetes for MLOps. So we're going to start from scratch as part of Kubernetes, Dockers and Kubernetes in this program. So even though if you have zero knowledge on this Kubernetes or maybe Dockers, definitely you can able to join this program. Yeah, we'll be starting from a scratch.
Sarat, by any case, if you're unable to join this month batch, so
Sorry,
I mean,
can you please repeat your question? There is some disturbance just happened
yeah,
from
by
the
any
background.
chance, if you're unable to join April 15th batch, so
Yep.
when does the next batch starts?
We haven't scheduled the next batch, but let's say once we might expect the next batch April, May, June or something, but I cannot exactly mention this is the date that we're going to start. But so our prices might change for the upcoming batches, because considering our basic plan, it's been already underpriced. But yeah, so but let's say once you're registering for advanced or maybe advanced plus plan, so you can get a twice opportunity to rejoin our next batch. I mean, if your question is, okay, let's say if I'm attending a current batch, when will be our next batch that I can able to attend? So it might start, so maybe on a June would be the tentative month, for example.
Okay, and the sessions will be taken by yourself or any other persons from
So
your
I
team?
will be a trainer for MLOps specialization program. I will be a trainer, and you can able to contact me in this number if you want to talk more informations. I will be a trainer. So my name is Sharat. I'm a founder and CEO of this organization. So I will be a trainer for this program. So once again, folks, I have shared registration links and the place where you can download the curriculum and the free ebooks. So you can able to check it out. Okay. Please let me know if there is any other questions that you would like to ask, and we'll stay a few more minutes for you.
Thank you, Sarat. Your session was really
You're
good.
welcome. Thank you. Awesome. You're welcome. Okay, so Raghav asked a question. What are the prerequisites for MLOps or maybe MLOps course? I guess I have answered that question considering this particular slide. Yes, so anyone who is part of building ML models in any way that you're part of, you're a data scientist, data engineer, data analyst, a research person, applied scientist, or maybe ML engineer from DevOps person, yeah, so you would be the right person to attend. Okay, please let me know if there is any other questions. As I mentioned, so I'm here to help you. So once again, yeah, so our prices are starting from 32,999, a basic plan, 34,999 advanced plan, and 39,999 advanced plus plan. So along with, so it doesn't matter what are the plan that you pick. So every participant get an equal opportunity, attending a live session, access to recording and debugging session. And only thing that you need to pick this particular features that you're interested in. Saying that, so this offer is only till 27th of March. Any person who register for basic plan, they get a free upgradation to advanced plan. And this upgradation happens internally. And let's say if you register for advanced plus plan, you get advanced plus plan for free. If you register for advanced plan, you get advanced plus plan for free. And again, this is only till 27th of March. So any participants who register before 27th of March, so they will be eligible for these upgradations. Saying that, okay, so thank you so much for your valuable 2 hours and again providing additional 10 minutes for answering your questions. Please let me know if you guys have any more question. I'm going to stay for 1 more minute and saying that, and thank you so much. So now we can see as a part our production model has been already deployed, and in the same way I can also use the endpoint name from my production model, and I can also use that as part of a prediction. I mean, I have replaced my production model over here, and I can also use that to generate inferences. This works like a magic. So now as part of this demo, it's been completed. We can see both of our ML models has been deployed. One is a staging model, another one is a development model. I mean, both the models has been deployed. Saying this, so this is all about a session. So don't miss our
Sharat, one last
specialization.
question. Like
Yeah, please go
when you
ahead.
mention about the job opportunities, I mean,
Yep.
what are the companies which you are in tie-up with for the job opportunities for the candidates?
I mean, so apart from a tie-up, so we do work with many different organizations. There are organizations they do approach us, and there is a team with us. They grab our opportunities from various different other organizations. We have connected with startups and other MNCs. And again, it doesn't mean that okay, we are saying okay, you register for this course at the end of this program you'll be having a job in our hand. No, it's not that. As basically, so we help you to get the right set of a job based on the programs that you're offering, inclusive of what we say in job updates. It may be preparing interview preparation questions, it may be the resume preparation. So that's how it works. So I mean, so we have a corporates where we bring the opportunities for you. Yeah, I mean, so I cannot put a slide as of right now what we've been connected in. So there are different corporates, they do approach us in different matters. We have peoples from Bangalore, I mean, especially in India. So we can say, and we have peoples and organizations in abroad. We've been approaching. Yeah.
Thank you, Sharat.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, folks. Yeah, just enjoy the rest of your day, and hope we'll meet in a specialization program. Don't miss it. And this offer is only for 27th of March, as I mentioned. And yeah, just go and grab your seats. Thank you then. Have a great day. Bye.